What if I told you that every single day you're making a choice to steal from someone, and that someone is you? Not a metaphor. Your brain is literally wired to raid your future self's wallet, and it feels completely reasonable every single time. Here's a scene that probably sounds familiar. It's a Tuesday evening. You've had a long day, your energy is gone, and you're sitting on the couch scrolling through a delivery app. You know you meal prepped on Sunday. There's perfectly good food in the fridge, but the fridge requires standing up, and the app requires only a thumb. So you spend $14 plus tip plus fees on a meal you didn't really need to order. Now multiply that by 3 times a week. That's roughly $40. Times 52 weeks, that's around $2,000 a year. Invested steadily over 30 years, that number quietly becomes something closer to $150,000. Gone. Not stolen by anyone you could point to. Stolen by a version of you that existed on a Tuesday evening and didn't feel like opening the fridge. This isn't about meal prep. This is about a deeply embedded feature of human cognition called present bias. The tendency to overvalue what's available right now and dramatically undervalue the same thing when it's pushed even slightly into the future. Economists sometimes call it hyperbolic discounting, but the plain version is this. Your brain applies a massive mental penalty to anything that doesn't pay off today. And the uncomfortable truth is that this isn't a character flaw. It's not laziness. It's not weakness. It's architecture. Your brain was literally built this way, and understanding that is the first step to stopping the bleed. Because right now, you probably don't even see the theft happening. That's what makes it so expensive. So let's actually get inside the mechanism, because once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Imagine I offer you a choice. I'll give you $50 right now or $60 in 1 week. Most people, when tested on this, take the 50. Rationally, that makes no sense. A $10 gain in 7 days is an extraordinary return by any financial measure. But the brain doesn't run a spreadsheet. It runs a survival program. For most of human history, the future was genuinely uncertain. A reward you could hold right now was real. A reward promised for next week might never arrive. The weather could turn, the food could spoil, you might not be alive. So natural selection built a brain that places enormous weight on immediate, tangible rewards and treats future rewards with deep suspicion, discounting them steeply the further away they are. Here's the key insight though. The discount isn't linear. It's shaped like a hyperbola, meaning the steepest drop in how much we value something happens right at the boundary between now and not now. The difference between today and tomorrow feels enormous. The difference between 20 years from now and 21 years from now barely registers. Your brain genuinely cannot feel the difference between those two distant futures, the way it feels the difference between this moment and the next. This is why retirement savings feel abstract. This is why you'll negotiate hard over a $5 monthly fee, but not over a financial decision that compounds for decades. The immediacy of now hijacks the math. And your future self, the one who will actually live inside the consequences of today's choices, has no vote, no voice, and no way to warn you. They just inherit whatever you left behind. Let me tell you about a guy I'll call Marcus. Marcus is 31. He makes decent money, not rich but comfortable. He has a 401k at work, and his employer matches up to 4%. For 2 years running, Marcus has contributed exactly 0%, not because he can't afford it. He's got a gym membership he hasn't used in 4 months, 2 streaming services he forgets to cancel, and a habit of upgrading his phone every 18 months whether it needs it or not. Marcus isn't irresponsible in the way people usually picture irresponsibility. He pays his bills on time. He's not in credit card debt. He just consistently, reliably, chooses the version of spending that delivers something today over the version that delivers something in 30 years. And each individual choice feels defensible. The gym membership might get used again. The show might get good. The old phone was slow. Here's the twist on Marcus's story that makes it land differently. His employer match, the money he's walking away from, is 100% return on investment, instantly, the moment he contributes. That's not a figure of speech. For every dollar he puts in, his employer puts in another dollar. There is no investment product on earth that guarantees that. But Marcus's brain, running its ancient discount the future software, looks at that future dollar and decides it feels less real than the extra cash in his checking account today. By the time Marcus is 62, the math suggests he'll have left somewhere in the range of $200,000 in employer contributions unclaimed. Present bias didn't rob him all at once. It just took a small, invisible cut every single paycheck for 3 decades. That's how the theft works. It's never dramatic enough to feel urgent. Here's where present bias gets philosophically strange. And this is the part most financial advice skips entirely. Researchers studying this phenomenon have used brain imaging to look at how people think about their current self versus their future self. And the result is genuinely unsettling. The neural patterns that activate when you think about your future self look almost identical to the patterns that activate when you think about a stranger. Not a close friend, not a family member, a stranger, which means when you choose not to save today, your brain isn't interpreting that as a sacrifice you're making. It's interpreting it as a choice between giving something to yourself right now or giving something to some unknown person you've never met. Of course, you pick yourself. The problem is that unknown person is going to be you, waking up, tired, with the consequences you handed them. This reframe changes how you should think about every financial delay. Skipping a retirement contribution isn't just procrastination. It's making a decision on behalf of someone who has no say in the matter. Racking up high-interest debt for something you don't really need isn't just overspending. It's sending a bill to someone else to pay, except that someone else lives in your body. And the cruelest part, by the time your future self arrives and has to deal with the math, the present self who made all those choices is completely gone. They got the pleasure. Your future self gets the bill, the stress, the limited options. Present bias is the only crime where the same person is both the perpetrator and the victim, just separated by time. That's what makes it so hard to litigate inside your own head. There's no clear moment where it feels wrong. Let's get specific about what this actually costs, because I think most people dramatically underestimate the full price tag. The obvious cost is numerical. Compound growth is brutally sensitive to time. A dollar invested at 25 has roughly 8 times the growth potential of a dollar invested at 45, assuming typical market returns. Present bias consistently pushes the start date back. One more year, once things settle down, once I get a raise, and every year of delay doesn't just cost you a year of growth. It costs you the compounding that would have happened on top of that year, and the year after, for decades. The actual dollar cost of starting 5 years late can easily exceed 6 figures over a career. But there's a second cost that's harder to price: optionality. The person who saves consistently in their 30s doesn't just end up with more money in their 60s. They end up with more choices in their 50s. They can take a lower-paying job they find meaningful. They can weather a health crisis without financial catastrophe. They can help their kids. They can simply stop if they want to. Present bias doesn't just steal wealth. It progressively narrows the future, quietly closing doors you didn't even know you wanted open. And then there's the psychological cost. Studies consistently show that financial anxiety is among the most corrosive stressors people carry. The person who avoided dealing with retirement at 31 is often the person lying awake at 53, running mental calculations they can't quite close. The temporary relief of not thinking about it costs years of compounding dread. Present bias promises you comfort now. It doesn't tell you it's borrowing that comfort from your future peace of mind, with interest. So if this is wiring, not weakness, what can you actually do? Because just think about the future, more is not a strategy. Your brain will nod along and then do whatever it was going to do anyway. The most effective approach is what behavioral economists call commitment devices. You use your present self's decision-making power to tie the hands of every future version of you before present bias can activate. The clearest example is automatic enrollment. When saving is the default and you have to actively opt out rather than opt in, participation rates jump dramatically. The friction flips. Inertia, which usually works against you, suddenly works for you. Set your retirement contribution to increase automatically every time you get a raise. The psychological trick here is that you never feel like you're losing something, because you're giving away money you never had in your checking account to begin with. Present bias feeds on the feeling of subtraction. If the money never appears as yours in the first place, the bias has nothing to grab onto. For everyday spending, try a 24-hour rule on any purchase above a threshold you set for yourself. $50, $100, whatever fits your life. What you're doing is injecting artificial distance between your impulsive present self and the transaction. Most of the time, the desire either fades or you confirm it was real. Either outcome is better than the automatic grab. And finally, make your future self concrete. Give them a face. Researchers have found that people who interact with aged images of themselves make measurably more conservative financial choices. Your future self isn't an abstraction. They're a real person who will live inside every financial choice you make today. The more real they feel, the harder it becomes to hand them the bill without at least thinking twice. Present bias is quiet, it's constant, and it costs more than almost any other mental habit you carry. But now you can see it, and seeing it is how you start to stop it. Your money brain doesn't switch off when it comes to retirement. That's exactly where these biases cost the most. I built a free tool that shows you the real math, no spreadsheet required. It's called Granary, links in the description.